Welcome students to section 3.3, Applications of Systems. Getting ready for the Christmas holiday, so happy holidays to everybody. Merry Christmas. Little Charlie Brown Snoopy Christmas for you here in our first drawing. Now, applications of system, this is going to be about word problems. Now, word problems are pretty tricky for people, so we're going to break it down in the easiest way possible for you in order that you can solve this pain-free. So Woodstock here is going to introduce us to the first steps. So step one is assign labels to the variables. Okay, so assign labels to variables. Okay, so when we're talking about assigning labels, generally most people use X and Y, so we could let X equal hours, and then you could let Y equal dollars or whatever the particular label is. But you could also make it a little bit more obvious, like you could do G equals gallons, so it's a little bit more obvious to you, and then C equals centimeters. So that's just another way to do it. I prefer X and Y, but if you want to use something that matches the label, that's fine too. This is the hardest step. Step two, this is the most important step also, is write two equations using both variables. So anytime you have two variables, okay, as you identified here, so if you identify two different variables, then you're going to have to use both those variables in an equation, okay? So you have to come up with two equations. Now, it depends on which way you want it. Most of the time, it's probably going to be, well, actually, I can't generalize too much, but it might be in standard form, but it could be in slope-intercept form, or where you have y solved in terms of x. So it all depends, but you need two equations to solve for two variables. Okay, so then you're going to solve the system. Okay, you're going to solve the system, so what you have to do is you're going to solve for one of the variables first. So you're going to get x equals something, and then you're going to plug this into the system or an equation, and then you arrive at y equals something. Okay, so that's your goal. You want to know these two things. You want to know x equals a number, and you want to know y equals a number, because that's what we were trying to find in the beginning. You wanted to find your variables. Okay, and then we want to state the solution using the correct labels. Okay, so we want to go back to the beginning. We want to make sure that we look at the question and really cover with our answer what the question was asking. Okay. So let's go ahead and jump into our first example. A rectangular soccer field may have a width between 50 yards and 100 yards. So this is like different areas around the world. There's a little bit of wiggle room with how long the soccer field can be. And then a length between 100 and 130 yards. One particular soccer field has a perimeter of 320 yards. Its length measures 40 yards more than its width. What are the dimensions of this field? Okay, so let's just go through the steps here. We're going to assign labels first. Okay, so we can say we are going to let, what are the dimensions of this field? A lot of times you can look at the question and know what you're looking for. So the dimensions of the field are going to be in terms of W and L. So those are going to be my two variables, my width. Okay, so this is going to be my width, and L is going to be my length. Okay, my two dimensions, that's what I'm asking for. And they're going to both be in the units of yards. Okay, units are different than labels, by the way, okay? I know I had centimeters up here, which is probably a bad move. I'm going to change this, and we'll say cost. There, how about that? All right, so we have width and length. So let's try to come up with one equation. All right, so one equation, we have to, well, it's giving us a lot of information here. It's giving us information on 50 and 100 yards, 100 and 130. One particular soccer field has a perimeter of 320. And then, like, it gives us four pieces of information. We have perimeter of 320 and then length measures. So, honestly, we have too much. We have to decipher what we actually need. So I'm going to kind of break that down here. If it has 50 and 100 and 130, we don't really care about that range. That's just regulations. That's just kind of additional information that's like background of the problem. That doesn't exactly help us. So really what we're interested in is I don't know why that one's not erasing. What we're really interested in, there it goes, is the perimeter and the width in relation to the length, okay? That's the reason why those are important, because they both relate back to our labels in our variables, okay? So how do we determine perimeter? Perimeter is equal to all the outside edges of a rectangle added together. So this is width and that is length, and we add those four together. We have L plus W plus L plus W, and that's going to equal perimeter. In simpler terms, it's P equals 2L plus 2W, okay? So that's one equation that we have. And the other one that we have is its length measures 40 more than its width. So if we're relating the width to the length, we know they're not equal. Okay, the length is 40 yards more than its width. Okay, so we have to add 40 to the width in order for it to equal L. Sometimes a lot of students get confused that this means that the W is bigger. No. If you have to add to the W, that means the L is bigger, okay? So this is the, I'll even write it down to help you out. This is the bigger, and this one is smaller. Okay, now as you can see here, we have three variables here. We have W, we have L, and we have P. So what we need to do is we need to substitute one of the values. Well, we already determined that we're going to be working on W and L. So we have to determine a value of P that we can substitute, and we already know what that is. We know that a perimeter is 320 yards of our field. So we're going to substitute this value in for P, and we're going to rewrite that equation and what it looks like. That equals 320 equals 2L plus 2W. And then we have our other equation, which is fine how it is. We have 40 plus W equals L. Now this one's already set up perfectly for substitution, so we're going to go ahead and use substitution for this problem. Because we have L by itself, we're just going to substitute that in for L, and we're going to rewrite the pink equation with that addition. So we have 320 equals 2 times, I like to put parentheses, plus 2W, and then I substitute the value in, which is 40 plus W. Now I'm ready to solve. I'm going to use, let's go ahead and use red to solve. We're going to distribute first, and we get 80 plus 2W plus 2W equals 320. I need to combine like terms here. There's like terms, and I'm going to subtract 80 at the same time. And I get, what is that, 240 equals 4W. Once I divide by 4 to both sides, I get W equals, what is that, 60? Okay, so I have W equals 60. I have my first one, which is 60, and then I know it's in yards. Let me erase this. Don't need that anymore. So W equals 60 yards. And once I get one, the second one becomes much easier as I described here. Once you get one, you put it back into the equation and you find the other one. So I can put it into either equation. I'm going to choose this one just because it'll be easier. So I do 40 plus 60 equals my length, and so my length is going to be 100. Don't forget your units, which is 100 yards. And there we have our answer. The width of this field is 60, and the length is 100. It gave us some unnecessary information, background information, which we kind of have to weed through. So that was our first problem. If you're good on this, you can, I guess you're good to go. But I'm going to do a part 2 where I go over more examples. This is going to be another similar problem with cost. This is example 3 is a tough one concerning mixtures and chemistry. Almost every ACT has a problem like that on there. And then we're going to do one dealing with rate of time. Speed and rate of speed and stuff like that. So if you want to check out those 3 examples, make sure to stay tuned for part 2. Coming right up.